warm welcome. You've joined us here on ET Now, and today on the special show, let's put the spotlight on the sectors which will bear the brunt of 50% tariffs that have been levied by US President Donald Trump on import of goods from India. Shrimps, organic chemicals, textile, apparel, gems and jewelry and several other sectors are likely to be impacted the most. But sources are now telling us that the government is working on targeted export promotion mission schemes which would be tailor-made for most impacted sectors. Sumita, tell us, what are you picking up?
Absolutely, Ashesha. So lots of action being seen around Donald Trump's tariff policies. As of now, we're given to understand from government sources that the government of India is looking at increasing domestic demand as far as, the ongoing tariff-related issues are concerned. It's looking at boosting domestic consumption. We're given to also understand that there's going to be a rollout of export promotion mission soon. Sources also say on the expansion of the export basket from India for labor-intensive products, given that that's been a strategy of the Indian government. Well, India is exploring markets in West Asia, Europe to cushion the tariff impact for export of labor-intensive products. In fact, India's FTA with Oman is likely to be announced in less than 3 months. That's essentially what sources are also telling us. On India-Oman FTA, well, that is still currently underway. In fact, the legal vetting is currently happening, and a BIT or a bilateral investment treaty separately is under negotiation with Saudi Arabia, where FTA talks are also currently underway with the Gulf Cooperation Council. And there is a possibility that perhaps remains open for a separate FTA to be done individually with GCC countries, GCC member countries. Meanwhile, the government's priority is to fast-track the EU FTA that's getting currently negotiated with the European Union. Meanwhile, Ashesha, we're also learning that the newly reconstituted Parliamentary Panel on External Affairs that's chaired by Shashi Thakur, that will receive a briefing on India's foreign policy developments, and that includes the India-US trade talks as well. That's set to happen in a short while from now.
Well, absolutely. So perhaps some kind of relief measures could be on the cards from the government. But let's discuss this in greater detail, and we have a whole host of guests joining us on the show. But first up, Mr. N. Thirukkumaran, General Secretary of Tripura Exports Association and Chairperson of ST Exports India Private Limited, is now joining us. And Mr. Prashant Thakur, of Executive Director and Research at Anirok Advisory Group, is also now joining us. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here today on ET Now. But first up, let's talk about the impact on the textile sector then. And with the double whammy of now 50% tariffs on India's exporters, there's surely an impact. But how deep is the impact that you're facing and other exporters that are focused on US markets?
See, the total ready-made garment exports out of India, all India, is 16 billion, out of which 4.5 billion is from Tirupur. And we, Tirupur and in all India exports around 33 to 35% to the US. It is a very, very big impact on us because especially with people who are doing mostly to the US, some companies are doing around 80%, 100%, and some companies are even doing 30, 40%. It is a very, very big issue. I think we already feeling the heat. A lot of customers started cancelling orders, moving next season's orders. They are started moving to other countries, and also they are kept on hold of a lot of orders.
Let me get in Prashant Thakur as well. Thanks very much for taking the time out, Prashant, for speaking to us here on ET Now. If you could also weigh in on the tariff impact that's currently being seen. Of course, we just heard it from Tirupur Exports on the kind of impact that they are seeing, and of course that's being felt by clients, and they're essentially looking at diversifying their markets, but how soon can it happen only remains to be seen. But if you could also weigh in on this.
So basically, I just wanted to bring the impact of tariff from the affordable housing point of view and how it is going to impact. Even before the tariff bomb was dropped, affordable housing was already going through certain kind of slowdown. While after COVID, we saw a strong comeback in the overall residential estate sector, affordable kind of really degrew. And if you look at the core buyer group that comes, that constitutes the buyer of affordable housing, they come from SMEs and MMSE sectors. Now, if you look at the impact of tariff, I think this is going to be the maximum on these two sectors, be it gems and jewelries, fisheries, auto ancillaries, and the exporters. So, in my opinion, this is further going to kind of push the affordable housing into a prolonged recovery path. And apart from that, if I have to talk about the overall real estate sector, as of now, I'm not seeing that a severe impact on the broader residential real estate in terms of tariff. But yet, yes, if it is kind of a prolonged phase that we see, we might see some kind of sentiment deterioration happening.
Point, and Mr. Thakur, I wanted to scratch that point further, since you're saying that affordable housing is likely to be impacted and perhaps we could see collateral damage of the trade deal that is being signed and the tariff that has been imposed on India. If you can quantify that for us, how much impact could we see on Indian real estate market on the back of this? And also, we will perhaps see this impact over a period of time, right? It will not be immediate, isn't it?
Yes. So as I said earlier, that the impact is going to be restricted only on affordable for time being now, as the buyers come from these two segments. I'll give you a few data points. Now, for example, if you look at the MSME's contribution towards the overall GDP growth and export, it is around 30% and 45% respectively. And then, 260 million people are employed through in these two segments. And as I said earlier, that these are the core buyers of your affordable housing segment, which is 45 lakhs and below. They are going to kind of either delay their purchase decision, or they might find some difficulty in availing the home loan or let's say the finance that they would be needing for buying the house. Now, another data point that shows that the pain point was already there even before this tariff scenario emerged in the picture. Now, for example, the share of sales of affordable housing as of 2019 was 40% of the overall residential real estate sale. Today, it stands at 18%. And the same, data cuts a sorry figure for the new launches as well. While the new launches, 40% of the sales launches accounted for affordable housing. Today, it stands at 12%. So, what I wanted to highlight is that in spite of this tariff not impacting the overall real estate, which is an upper and a premium segment, it will have its impact on affordable segment because it hits the employability of those core buyers who are employed in SMEs and MMSE sector. So that's what I wanted to highlight.
Right, Prashant. So essentially what you're stating is that the affordable housing segment is going to have, the first set of impact at the offset. But let me come to you, Mr. Thirukkumaran. If you could also list out your key asks of the government for offsetting this impact, at least in the near term. We're given to understand from sources that the government is looking at, a lot of initiatives, and that also includes boosting domestic consumption and also putting into action the export mission that was announced in budget this year. But what else, in your opinion, could the government do to offset this major impact for exporters, at least in the near term?
The immediate thing what the government can do is increase, first make credit easily available for the MSMEs, and next one, like the COVID situation, it's like a COVID situation. This situation is like a COVID situation. Then increase the incentives like duty drawback rates and ROSCTL rates, and also see what the best the government can roll out schemes which are export friendly for the export community. This is what we expect. And also what I forgot is the interest equalization scheme, which is being withdrawn from 1/1/25, has to be bought back immediately for the export fraternity.
Understood. And since we are talking about the sector, if you can tell us, what will the strategy be then, at least for the near term, for the sector as a whole to combat the situation, at least say over the next 3 to 5 odd months?
See this since this U.S. trade deal is not certain and there are a lot of uncertainties. The short term is try to get help from the government financially, from the government, like incentives, increase the incentives, and as I told, the credit, make credit availability. This is a short term thing. The long term, I think the government should fast track the FTA with the EU, which is very, very critical at the moment. The one market which can at least become a source of replacement. I will not say full source of replacement because I think US is a big buyer, but I think even to EU, we are around 30% of our exports is to the EU. Fast track the free trade agreement with the EU and bring it as soon as possible, so that, and once the FTA with the UK comes in, this will be a long-term solution, like to navigate the losses of orders, what we will be getting from the US.
Right, Mr. Kumaran, let me ask you another question since you mentioned about diversification. Now, as far as some inputs that we gathered are concerned, well, EU forms 30% of your shipments, but can diversifying exports to offset the losses be enough? What are you anticipating and expecting from diversification strategy that exporters are currently undertaking?
The losses what we are going to face now cannot be offset by the diversion of fast tracking the FTA, or the losses are, that's what I said, government has to come out with a scheme to how to offset the losses of the, especially with the people who are dealing with the US market. So I think the government has to come up with a scheme that is for the losses. But I'm saying for the long term, if at all the trade deal doesn't happen with the US, so we need to deal, because I think people will move out. Like all the US clients will move out. They will not be sourcing in Tirupur or India because it's not viable for them. So because there is a 16 billion, 35% of the orders, it's almost 5 billion to 6 billion. So to get that chunk, not lose the share of the business, I'm saying for a long term, is the fast tracking the FTA with the EU is the best thing, and also see what FTAs we can do with the countries which are buying clothing at the priority.
Understood. So that's as far as diversification strategy for Indian textile exporters is concerned. But Mr. Thakur, coming back to you then, and I was going through your report and it talks about the fall in affordable housing segment. So its share has fallen from nearly 38% in the first half of 2019 to just 19% now. I understand it could be partially attributable to COVID-led luxury demand boom. But apart from that, which other factors led to the fall, and what is the outlook going forward then as far as the share of affordable housing is concerned?
See, you're right. So what happened basically after COVID, the demand for larger houses kind of increased. And that's where developers started focusing more on the upper segment. And since the real estate saw a strong comeback right after COVID, the land prices also shot up drastically. And, what happened was that overall cost of construction also zoomed. So that's where I think affordable started to lag in terms of overall growth. So we saw a K-shaped recovery where upper segment of the residential real estate kind of really did well. But we saw a steep de-acceleration happening in the affordable segment. So a steep rise in land prices, overall increase in construction cost, and customers' preference for larger and luxury houses were key factors for that. And on the soft aspect, if you see, there was also a Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana that used to give credit-linked subsidy scheme. That was also kind of fueling the growth of affordable housing pre-COVID. And in 2020, it came to an end. So I think that also played a significant role in kind of demand basically drying up in the affordable segment. So I think, and then this tariff also is further going to dent whatever possible recovery we were expecting in the affordable segment. It would kind of delay the recovery path for affordable housing.
Right, Prashant. In fact, thanks for putting that into perspective. In fact, this has been a long pending demand by the sector to the Finmin as well, that is to give a boost to affordable housing, and perhaps there have been SOPs that have been announced in the past as well, but that is going to take some impact. There's going to be some impact on account of tariffs. But let me come back to you, Mr. Kumaran. Now, as far as diversification is concerned, you talked about that, but what geographies at the moment are clients preferring for exporting from the United States over India?
See, the geographies, for them, a 50% tariff, first you have to understand that paying a 50% tariff and importing clothing and staying competitive and retailing it at a price is not going to be viable for the customer also. So they will, if this tariff issue is not resolved or we don't get to an agreement, I think people will move out of India. The US clients, especially the US clients, will move out of India because for them, all our competing countries are within the 20%, be it Cambodia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, they are all in 20% range. So for them, it's much viable for them to source it from that destination than India.
Understood. So that's as far as impact on India's textile sector is concerned, and several other avenues that India has. And we also try to understand the impact on India's real estate sector and affordable housing in particular. Mr. Thirukkumaran and Mr. Thakur, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here today and helping us understand the impact on several sectors. We need to slip into a very short break, but more news and updates will